today I'm going to teach you the final lesson that you need to know for your quiz on Monday, and it is 11.3, the Pythagorean Theorem. For today's lesson, there are a few things that I want you to know as far as facts. The first one is a hypotenuse. Everyone say hypotenuse. All right, so this is the side that's opposite the right angle. Does anyone know how you can tell by looking at this right here that this is a right triangle? What do you think it is? You're right. Anytime that you see this little square right there, that tells you that that's going to be a right angle. Do you guys know how many degrees that is? 90 degrees, okay? So anytime you have a 90-degree angle, then the one that is the opposite of that 90-degree angle is going to be your hypotenuse. So you can see right there, it's the one that's over it. It's not either of the ones that are right there next to the 90-degree or the right angle, but it's going to be the one that's the opposite. Then you can see the legs are the two sides that form the right angle. So as you can see right here, it's got that little box. That means it's a right angle. So the legs are right here connected or touching where the right angle is going to be, okay? And then the Pythagorean Theorem, there is a formula. Let's read it together. What does it say? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's one of those formulas that you're going to want to memorize, and we're going to use that all throughout our lesson today. Number one is asking us to find the unknown length and then round to the nearest tenth if it's necessary. That's a C right there. Is that one of the legs or is that the hypotenuse? That's the hypotenuse because remember it is opposite of where that right angle is. Okay, so let's start off with the formula. What's the formula for the Pythagorean theorem? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Good job. Now, just a fact for you to know, you can only use the Pythagorean theorem if there is a 90-degree angle in there. Okay, that's when you can use the Pythagorean theorem. Other than that, you cannot use A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so let's just go ahead and plug in some numbers. A could be this side or it could be this side. It does not matter to me. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and do it with the number 9. So we're going to plug in a 9 for A, and then what are we plugging in for B?
12.
A 12, okay? So we're going to do 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. Is there any work that I can do to the left of the equal sign? Yes. What is 9 squared? 81. What is 12 squared? 144. Equals C squared. So still to the left of the equal sign, is there any work that I can do right there? Yes. What is 81 plus 144? 225. All right, so now I want to get C by itself. What is not allowing C to be alone? The square. What is the opposite of a square? It is a square root sign. Remember, a radical sign, okay? So in order to get rid of that, I'm going to go ahead and put a square root. If I square root the right side, I have to square root the left side, okay? So now, anytime that you have a square root and a square, what it's doing is it's going to cancel that out right there, and you're left with plain old what? C. And what is the square root of 225? 15. Now, when we had our last lesson over 11.1, we learned anytime that you introduce the radical, you're going to have two answers. It's not just going to be positive, it's going to be what? Negative. Positive and negative, okay? So it would be positive and negative. Now, this is an interesting thing because our instructions have asked us to find the unknown length. Can you have a negative length? You cannot have a negative length. So although that is something that I taught you, in this particular case, whenever we're taking the length of a triangle, you're not going to put a positive and a negative, okay? But instead, when it asks me to find the length, how long is it?
15 feet.
15 feet is correct. So that is the unknown length that we did not know before for side C. In order to use the Pythagorean theorem, what kind of an angle do I have to have? A right angle. Do I have a right angle? Yes. So let's go ahead and start with our formula. What is our formula?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Excellent. All right. So let's figure out what we do know. Or actually, let's figure out what we don't know. Which one do we not know?
B.
B. So I'm just going to keep a b squared right there, okay? Now you've got to figure out which one is this. Is that A or is that C?
That's a hypotenuse.
It's the hypotenuse, so that will be C because the hypotenuse is always C, all right? How'd you guys figure out that that was the hypotenuse?
Because it's on the right.
It is the opposite. It doesn't matter if it's on the right or the left. It's opposite of that right angle right there, okay? So we're going to have that equals 20 squared. And then my A is what, guys?
12 feet.
12 feet. All right, so I'm going to put 12 squared. Is there any work that I can do to the left right now? Yes. What can I do?
Square.
12 squared. What is 12 squared? Okay, because remember that means 12 times 12. Now is there anything I can do on the right side?
Yes.
Yes. What is 20 squared? It's 20 times 20. What would that be? What is it? 400. Good job. Okay. Remember, our whole goal is to get B by itself. What two things are not allowing it to be alone? Okay, the square and what else? 144. Okay. Which one do you think I'm going to get rid of first? The 144. Here's why. This is attached to the variable, so we say that they're best friends. So leave the b squared alone. The square is going to be the very last thing that you keep every single time, okay? So how do I get rid of 144? Subtract it. If I subtract it on the left side, I have to subtract it on the right side, okay? So Elijah, the b squared comes down, and what is 400 minus 144? Very good. 256 is correct. Now, Carson, is B by itself? No. What's not allowing it to be alone? The square. What is the opposite of a square, guys? Square root. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do square root to the left side, which means we have to do square root to the right side. As you remember, we talked about this before. A square and a square root cancels out, and I'm left with what on the left side? B. Okay, so now we got to find the square root of 256 in order to find out what B is. Very good job. The answer is 16. Now as I go back, I see it is not just plain old 16, it's 16 what? 16 feet. All right, always check to see if you need to put units there. Any questions about number 2? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Skip a line and let's write this down for number 3. First things first, do you have a right angle?
Yes.
Yes, so what will I use as my formula?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Everybody tell me the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, what's my A?
Your A is 9.
Okay, it could be 9 or it could be 11. It doesn't matter. What's your other one? 11 squared. Okay, there's some work that I can do on this side right here. So what is 9 squared? 81. What's 11 squared? 121. And then that equals C squared. Sienna, what is 81 plus 121? Very good. 202 equals C squared. Is my answer 202? No. I want to figure out what C is, not what C squared is. How do I get rid of that square?
You square root it.
You have to square root it because that's the opposite. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. What happens to my square and my square root?
It cancels out.
It cancels out and I'm left with plain old C. Then all you have to do is put this into your calculator. What is the square root of 202? All right, it kind of goes on and on and on forever. 14.2126. But remember, when you have something like this, you only want to round to the nearest tenth, the number right after the decimal point. So what's the answer, guys? 14.2 what? Feet. Always make sure you label your units. Okay, how many of you would say you got that correct on your own? All right, great job. A right triangle has legs of length A and B and a hypotenuse of length C. Find the unknown length. So basically this is exactly like the other problems that we did for 1 through 3. The only difference is I did not draw a triangle for you to see, okay? So we know our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All you're going to do at this point is just go ahead and plug those numbers in and try to figure out what c is, all right? So I want you guys to try to do this on your own. All right, as I walked around, I saw a lot of you had the correct answers. A couple people just had tiny things that were not correct. Let's check it out. What's 10 squared?
It is
100. Just the girls, what's 24 squared? 576. All right, let's add those two together. What do you get?
676.
676. I want c by itself, so how do I get rid of that square? Square root both sides. What happens to the square and the square root? It cancels out. You're left with plain old c equals, what's the square root of 676?
26.
26 what?
Feet.
26 feet is correct. Okay? 2 thumbs up if you got that correct. Excellent. If you did not get it correct, are there any questions for me? All right, final problem of the day. A TV screen is rectangular and it's measured by the length of a diagonal. The screen is 15 inches by 20 inches. What is the length of the diagonal? So we can tell from this right here, this one's going to be the 15 inches, this one is going to be the 20 inches. All right, you can also see that this is a 90-degree angle, so the hypotenuse is the one over here. Is that my A, B, or my C? That's the C, okay? Your hypotenuse will always be the C, or the diagonal of a triangle will always be your C, okay? So let's go ahead and start off with the Pythagorean Theorem. What is it?
A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
All right. Kelsey, what's my A squared?
15.
15 squared. Allie, what's my B? 20 squared. Alexa, what's my C? Unknown, we still don't know it. Okay, try this on your own, guys. Just the girls, what's 15 squared? 225. Just the boys, 20 squared. 400 equals c squared. When you add those two together, what do you get? 625. How do I get c by itself? You do the square root of both sides, then that does cancel out, as you said. And what is the square root of 625? 25 inches is correct. All right, any questions? Excellent job on today's lesson.